Should we just double check our energy?
I think there's a lot of things going on that are driving people to experiment and to explore and hunger for something different. It's a very interesting time in history where people are beginning to see the old system isn't working, not only economically, ecologically, but in human terms.
You can look at cooperation as an ethical, good-hearted thing, or you can look at it as something people need to do. To take the work seriously, to take other people seriously, to organize politically. This isn't touchy-feely stuff. This is about actually getting the world to work.
We're in transition, and what's remarkable to me is that people feel that in their bones. We need to figure out how to align the human economy with the principles and patterns that tend to operate in all living systems. That's the essence of it. And so the challenge is to kind of figure out how to switch out the engines on the plane while we're keeping the plane in the air.
What if we were able to really build the foundations of a cooperative world? What would it look like? What would be free and exciting? What would be generous? What would be moral? What would be exciting? What would be liberating? That's the kind of direction we're talking about. We're at ground zero beginning to explore designs that take us beyond the 20th century capitalism, 20th century socialism. There are a lot of people beginning to say there's got to be a better way. You were talking about changing the system, the whole system. That's what this is about. But that means people have to really start small, but also think big.
Housing is one of the primary social institutions. We have an opportunity through technology and kind of open collaborative philosophies that have been emerging in the last few years to really rethink the way that the built environment works and the way the major societal structures work. I helped to instigate the project that we're sitting in right now. It's called the Red Victorian, and it's a 20-room hotel, bed and breakfast. It's been here for 100 years. We took it over about a year ago and turned it into what we're calling a co-living hotel. The Red Victorian is really a new way of thinking about home and housing in the 21st century. It's a combination of long-term residential accommodations, but in a very fluid way with short-term housing options. So we have people staying here everywhere from 1 night to 1 month to indefinitely. We're aiming to serve, the kind of modern nomadic creative population, and so people are often traveling, or they're working late, or their schedules are very different. We don't have a particular hierarchy, and I certainly call myself like the boss or the manager, or we're all managers, or you can think of it in many different ways, but it's a cooperatively run space.
Okay, which one are we looking at?
Can I show you something?
Sure.
The way we make decisions at the Red Victorian is open to everybody who's in the community. I went and I met with the Department of Public Health, and they provided a couple of options for what we could do in the short term to be compliant with what health codes are required. So the first is that we could be officially a bed and breakfast, providing the breakfast and other things that go along with that. It means that only employees and innkeepers, which they don't even know what they're defined as, may provide food for the guests, but we have to provide it, and the guests can't access it themselves.
It's so silly because it like precludes you from doing new and innovative stuff.
We basically don't fit into any of the boxes that they have for anything. They could basically say, you've got to shut down your hotel because you're not compliant.
We're witnessing an era where like a diversity of economies are starting to flourish, and so government doesn't know what to do.
But this seems to be written for like a B&B that's family run.
Yeah.
Is what I'm seeing
Family
here.
run bed and breakfast, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually, it turns out a co-living hotel is a family-run bed and breakfast.
Easy.
Thanks everyone for coming tonight. This is our Wednesday dinner at the Red Victorian. For those of you who may not have been here before, the Red Vic is our home.
I hope that you chill out.
I'm really inspired by living around and being exposed to people who are up to amazing things in the world. We can provide an environment and a structure that not only selfishly gets us exposed to those people, but actually I think supports and amplifies the work that they're doing by making it easier for them to do what they're doing and also to hopefully meet others who are inspiring to them.
We've been totally bootstrapped up to this point.
I mean, I think that this, to me, a very exciting aspect of having a physical building is that it's an opportunity to provide literally a container for a whole bunch of humans to walk through the door. And when you walk through that door, we get to say, hey, the rules are a little bit different here. We really like to play with that in terms of having people getting to say, actually, here you do have a say in things. And then looking at it and saying, okay, well, how's that working? Like, actually, that didn't work very well, but that worked really well. Okay, let's update how we're doing things and try it again. And it's sort of it's a big experiment.
I first really understood about cooperation because my background is as a musician. And of course, when we play chamber music or any kind of music that doesn't have a conductor, we have to find ways to cooperate. You know, the way most musicians rehearse is by grunts or eye contact, you know, or grimaces.
Being able to really listen to the other person, all three of them, in fact, you're kind of trying to hear three voices in your head at the same time as you're looking at your own music and playing together, so you kind of get into the flow as a group. Do you know what? I think we need to practice number one, up just right from there, from 1 to 2. Yeah, why don't we try one at a time? Why don't you do it once with her from 1?
Yeah, we are part of one thing, and you know, each one of us have a role, and sometimes we trade in roles, so it's neat. So it's a real conversation, sort of, well, reminiscent of life, you know. So it's communicating. It's fun.
We are on about 1.5 acres of urban land. It was a parking lot. And through a partnership with Concord Pacific, we have been able to farm this land. So we are an urban farm.
We felt certainly a great need on the downtown east side, that nothing agricultural was going on, that a social enterprise based on agriculture had the potential to not only provide meaningful work, but also a number of other healing aspects that occur by nature of working the soil, growing living things, taking care of something, feeding other people. So we have 5 farms. Each is different. They each are in different neighborhoods. They each are doing different things. This is an orchard, for example. Pacific and Carroll, our largest site, big production. And First and Clark, an entire acre, 16,000 square feet of unheated tunnel houses. You know, we're producing tomatoes and peppers and melons and things like that. So we have to, because of the intensity and scale of the operation, we have to make maximum use of time and space. So as soon as a crop is done, boom, replant, you know. Here are people using these words, urban agriculture. Nobody had ever heard those two words together. When I would describe it, it's like, what? And we felt we needed to demonstrate that it was possible to have a successful enterprise business based on agriculture in the city and at the same time support people's needs. We had to bring the farm to the city. Yeah, we had to create within these boxes an entire ecosystem. Kind of crazy. Imperfect, but has potential.
We are providing employment to people who are facing barriers. Sometimes that's an addiction, sometimes that's mental illness, sometimes it's a physical illness. Whatever the barrier, it makes it hard for most of our staff to work a regular job. They need a job where there's flexibility and understanding about the ups and downs of their lives.
Right there, lemon tree with lemons. Right? That's special. It's awesome. Yeah. I missed my calling, man. Should have been a fucking gardener. Right? You know? Instead of what I was. It's not very often like down here, because you know, you get pretty rough around the edges, that you get to care and nurture for something. When I was a kid, punishment was going to weed the garden. So when I came here, it's like, oh man, what am I doing, right? I remember this, right? But it's not like that, right? You get into the soil and stuff, right? You get to see stuff grow, and actually, it's kind of beautiful, right? It is beautiful. It's not kind of beautiful. It is beautiful.
Soul food has two primary goals. You know. One is a social one, and I think one is an agricultural one. The social one is first and foremost. But the agricultural one dominates and informs the social piece. This as a community. This is a place to go. This is a reason to get up in the morning. This as a choice between something that's going to bring you down and something that might be positive, and you know.
Wow.
This is where you're getting hung up right here.
Because these guys, they don't give up on you. You don't show up, you're not feeling too good, you're not making it, come back the next day, we'll keep working. You don't get fired here. And hey, you're not coming every day. Oh, I missed one day last month, and that's the only day I missed. I do all the seeding here, just about. Yeah, I guess I'm the boss for here. Tell people where they need to be, what needs to get done, and stuff like that. But it's only my second year, and I'm still learning. And I'm learning from the best. Alyssa is a beast. She might be small, she's strong, too. She can work her butt off.
She's awesome. She really kind of holds this all together for us. And she's a good weeder.
Thanks, Michael. At least I know I can't mess that up. Why do I do this? Some days I don't know. I mean, we all want the world to be a better place. And I think that there's for me personally, there was a lot of transformative power in agriculture in my life. I come from a really privileged world. I went to university, which was paid for primarily by my parents. I grew up in a stable household with a really loving family. I had people all along telling me that I could do things. It is quite hard coming in this. You try to find a common ground with people. Yeah. I don't know what it's like to go through opiate withdrawal. I don't know what it's like to not be able to get my prescription in the morning when I need it every day. There's days when I really can't understand what someone's dealing with, but you can be compassionate.
A lot of people on the east side are great people. It's just that they don't think that they're worth the puddle that they're stepping in. And that's the truth, right? Yeah. I've been a heroin addict for about 20 years. I battle with addiction, and it didn't matter to them. right? Like it didn't matter to them. Like, you know, I had crack marks, it didn't matter. I wasn't being judged, you know, like, what's going on here, right?
The power of what we've done here has to be shared both by the influence of the soil and the plants and the healthy food, but also by the community of people who have been involved with this experience. It's about the people.
What we see emerging is what we call a regenerative economy. And in very simple terms, we're having this conversation because our bodies have been and are continuing to regenerate. So we're sustainable because we're regenerating. And the whole universe works that way. And we see it everywhere, usually driven by the intuition of an entrepreneur who has no theoretical framework in mind. They intuit it. So that's why I'm confident that it's an emergent property. And it's amazing how often we see these patterns repeating themselves.
The London Brewing Cooperative is located in London's Old East Village. Tight community, vibrant community, a community that's really has its own identity and is kind of moving forward.
I suppose it's got its roots in my friend Marcus receiving a used book for his birthday, Papazian's New Complete Joy of Home Brewing, and he sent me an email and said, hey, you want to brew beer? And I liked beer. I had no idea it could be made.
We were brewing together, you know, in my garage, just with, you know, something we built. It was a propane-fired, gravity-fed system. I mean, we didn't paint it up even to look nice. It was very utilitarian. It made beer, it made very good beer. Everybody has a good time brewing the beer. Everybody has a good time sitting around and chatting. And usually beer brings out some good debate, brings people together.
It was a very makeshift system that we had, you know, thrown together, and garage door wide open so the propane fumes could go out, and you know, we were just having a lot of fun brewing beer. And we started to realize, well, these recipes are actually, people kind of like them, and it's starting to work.
And we looked at different models of cooperative brewing, ways that a brewery could both be financially viable but also be collectively owned. And we couldn't figure it out. So we just kept brewing, but we just enlarged the circle. At that point, it was myself, Dave. Dave often jokes that he got involved because he had a garage. It's partially true. I think people want to be in on big decisions that matter. How to structure that becomes really tricky. We'd have to learn that. It doesn't come naturally. The cooperative is simply a one-person, one-vote ownership structure. So you get a group of people together, everybody gets a vote, and you set up a company or a bank or a store or a farm. It's a very simple structure.
We purposely located ourselves in Old East Village. It's a neighborhood we love. It's a neighborhood that many of us live in. And so we want to be part of that community. So we don't want to have a huge, you know, pollution spewing kind of operation. We want to have a community brewery. So one that everybody feels they can be a part of. Everyone feels that is doing things that are in the best interest of the community.
Co-ops, I mean, they're a very old business model. They're an underutilized business model. And I mean, at their premise, they're about a more equitable distribution of power and wealth.
If we can just make a couple of notes of positive and then things to improve on, maybe?
The idea is a very beautiful one when you think about how it can work and how everyone works together.
Do it on a night that, like on a Friday or Saturday night, potentially, when we're going to be busy in the cellar.
It's one member, one vote. It's not $1, one vote. So it doesn't matter how much of the company you own, how much you have invested. It's that you have a stake in the outcome.
That's a food hub. That's a real food hub.
So there's no need for a president. There's no need for a secretary. But they say, no, you need to have one. What kind of corporation doesn't have a president?
So it's about engagement. It's about folks having control.
over the workplace, as much as they also end up in a position of the workplace having control over them, right?
At the end of the day, we're people helping people, and I think that's how a lot of my coworkers view this job. And if you're coming into this job from a non-cooperative structure, I think it can be very different, but I do think it encourages folks to view their work differently and therefore work in a different way.
We're not taught to cooperate, and we're not taught to trust. Think of all the board games that we play when we were kids. I remember playing with my cousins and Monopoly. It's about being at the top.
Working together?
Working together is really hard. And when everyone has, I mean, the purpose of a worker co-op is democracy between workers. So when everyone has an equal voice, it can be difficult to reach a consensus. But yeah, basically human interaction is hard, especially when there's not a hierarchy saying, you know, I'm the manager, this is what we're gonna do.
That's right. We can all work together for somebody else's goals. So cooperation to me means deciding on those goals together. And maybe it's the benefit of having a brewery is that you get together and you have kind of that, you know, Habermasian cafe style where everybody debates. It's that's the democracy. And not a voice that's just understood through a vote, but a true voice at the table.
Well, we're having a baby in a few months. Yeah, really soon, coming up really fast. Yeah. You know, this has brought another aspect of long-term planning into our co-op meetings and the development of our co-op. So, you know, what does maternity leave look like? Well, we have to decide that, right? What does paternity leave look like? Is it going to be possible for me to step away from my daily job for, you know, 3-4 months, maybe longer? Which brings us to another complication, which is where do we find more people with the, you know, the vision that we have, the dedication we have to our work?
Who was I speaking to the other day that said, never get in business with your friends? And it's just like, I don't know who I'd want to work with otherwise, because if they don't know you, if they don't know your story, then how do they understand where you're coming from?
So running at 100 though with just one element.
100 with one is what I've been doing. Yeah. But I've had a couple boilers already.
It can be a real difficulty to be cooperative at all times, right? To work in a democratic way and to make sure that everyone's on board.
How long does it take to?
It takes 40 minutes in total.
You know, it's, again, a real reality in the corporate world. You have a child and you need to take time off, you're falling behind.
Do you want a baby piece of toast?
Might be easier to do if it were just a straight up business sometimes. If you didn't have to deal with relationships and you didn't have to deal with cooperation, you might be able to do something that was far more efficient than what we have, but we wouldn't be the ones doing it, it'd be somebody else.
I'd kind of come to, I guess, like the end of my rope with job hunting and had applied for several things and wasn't really getting anywhere and saw this job posting and I was like, oh, well, somebody who knows how to work with food and can talk to chefs. I'm like, well, that's pretty much what I've been doing my whole life. So that job has got my name written all over it. I guess technically I'm a salesperson, but maybe this is why I'm good at sales is because I don't like sales. I just let the quality of what we do speak for itself, and they either want it or they don't want it. I don't want to sell something to someone who doesn't want it. It's dishonest.
My job is what I call quality control. So I mean, everything you see here, I make sure that I go through everything before it comes here. So that means everything's as best as possible and as perfect as possible. It's one of the things that Soul Food's always been about. It's always been about quality. We will not put anything out that, you know, we wouldn't take ourselves, or more likely better than we would eat ourselves.
Another bonus I get that some people don't get, I get to work the market. So I see the finished product, and then I see the people that are buying that product for a really good price and how happy they are with it. people are happy with our product, and I love that.
One thing that's so great about Soul Food Farms is I think that they know their community, they know their neighborhood, and that's why it's important that they're nearby. That's why another thing why we choose them is they get it. You know, they understand the difficulties that we have. We're very, very small, first of all, and every day the menu is different. It's whatever in season, whatever is fresh, whatever they're proud of, they send to us, and then we use that as inspiration.
It's embodied in how you feel when you've done this work, how you feel when you see somebody who's eaten the food and comes back and tells you how incredible it is. Those are the things that are so intangible and so difficult to put a value on. You had those before?
My first time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Let me see what you got here.
This is like Allie.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be good. These overpasses, they're going to come down in 4 years. And when they do, where we sit right now, where there's these wonderful crops growing, you know, the carrots and the radicchio and the arugula and parsleys and whatever is here, will be replaced with high-rises. And people will be living on this land where we sit right now, 20 or 30 stories up, as far from this as you can possibly get.
So what we're doing today is going up and down the corridor in the Old East Village, which is where we wish to maintain our presence as a brewery, looking at potential spaces.
Okay, so there's no light up here, so you have to be careful on what you step.
Okay. Right now we're in a lease situation, so if we could potentially purchase a building, if that makes more sense, either sharing it with other businesses, etc., that's what we're interested in doing. So we're kind of doing walkthroughs.
At some point.
At some point
here. Not that long ago.
At least it's easy to find where the roof is leaking. It's a lot of opportunities, a lot of options, and we're trying to just determine what options are in fact opportunities and what may be money pits, if you were.
The second level's been renovated. I put $75,000 in it, brand new.
I mean, that it would be it's the skateboard co-op main floor, right? Skateboard co-op on the main floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the next one down?
658.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Because we like the skateboard co-op. They're good guys. We don't mess around with their spot.
Oh no, they're cool. I already got a spot for them. They actually might go
like-
there regardless if you buy it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they want to go over there. We've already talked to them about it. So
Yeah.
I spoke to them about it a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that building.
Yeah. If you want it, they're taken care of. Trust me. I love those guys.
Come on in, everybody. All right.
No, we're here to stay as long as we can stay.
Oh, well, that's
The headlights
what we
don't look
said.
so-
We're like, we don't even want to look at it if you guys are
He's
staying.
trying to get you guys to buy the building too.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
news.
no, the whole thing is this is the building we want?
Yeah, that's awesome, and we support that 100%. So we'll
headline
stop looking
brewing
right now.
cooperative. This place is
Yeah, we want to stay here.
Yeah,
There's a
man.
chance that if it doesn't work out for us here, that we'll try to get the father and son's building, but this is 100% like.
Where you want to be.
Yeah, man.
Oh, dude, yeah. Now we're just on a tour. Yeah, that's what we were just told that out back. We're like, what? Sorry, man, we didn't know that. Well, yeah, but a certain level of honesty.
It's a chance for us to start talking about this landlord nonsense.
Yeah.
The owners of these buildings, come on.
Yes.
They are.
Interesting day. We did a bunch of stuff and we're planning on making a ramp tonight.
Like Jim's like, what are you guys doing here? No, we want this building.
Yeah, so.
Like, oh, come on. These guys are friends. That's no good.
Yeah.
So we gotta clean that up.
You need small businesses that may not have a ton of capital in order to buy it to at least have a reasonable expectation that the building won't be swept out from under them as soon as it becomes profitable to somebody else.
This neighborhood provides a real opportunity in that it can become, if we want it to be, it can become a place where all are accepted, where we have a mixed neighborhood where people from all income brackets, all walks, all backgrounds have a capacity to interact and build a good life. That's what we're aiming for. There are some pretty big obstacles in our way, and quite directly, it's those who control the property are in our way.
It's not money. I mean, money it's a necessity in this world, but that's truly not the relationships we're trying to build.
Collaboration is ultimately the more sustainable approach than competition. Whereas, of course, our competitive capitalist system in Wall Street, no more than anywhere, is rooted in the idea that, this false understanding of Darwin. What Darwin said is the fittest. In fact, he didn't even coin the term survival of the fittest. But the way he used it is fittest as in the one that fits best within the whole system, not the strongest.
My name is Tiberius Brastaviciano. People know me as Tibi. When I first came to Canada, I was 14 years old. And I went to Université de Montréal for a master's in applied physics. Laser applications to biology and medicine. I work here at the Sensorica lab. Sensorica is this new type of organization where you're free to join and to take initiative and start new projects. It is a commercial venture, and you work collaboratively with people, and you share the revenue according to everyone's contribution. It is a decentralized network, and there is no boss. We focus on material production, meaning hardware, electronics. We put stuff together. So we're trying to solve how material stuff could be produced in an open way. Sensorica started by focusing on open source hardware, but on the high-end side. So we said, let's first prove that open source can produce scientific instruments. 5 years ago, open source hardware was just starting. Now we see drones and 3D printers. These two industries are driven by open source. This is the main hub of the network where things happen, where hardware gets done, prototyped, and produced. And there's other people working from their own little home labs around the world that do some prototyping, and then we mirror it here. We're democratizing here access to the micron world. Traditionally, these pieces can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Open source, maybe 20% of the cost allow scientific labs in universities in the emerging world to do their science. My background is in lasers, so everything you see with optics, optical fiber, that's my contribution to the projects, yes. In the mechanical side and the electronics part, these are other people that have contributed to it. It's a collaborative work, I think. There's many different sections here. So this is our micro 3D printer, which will be used for microfluidic chips design. What we do, we add an optical fiber. It's just the size of a little hair. So this is like a pan of light that solidifies or polymerizes the resin that you put inside, and you're able to do tiny, tiny, tiny structures. It just needs a bit of integration, but the proof of concept is done. So that's something that will go on crowdfunding pretty soon. The tiniest printer in the world. People here are motivated by what's the next big thing we can work on that can be so disruptive, right? From microfluidic devices and democratizing testing of food and water quality. How to automate a garden, how to automate a greenhouse. Well, here's all the electronics that you need and the software to run it. We affectionately call this the iPot, a completely autonomous flower pot. We have an atmospheric temperature and humidity sensor, so the plant knows if the air is dry or if the air is very humid, and it knows the temperature. And here we have a light sensor, so the plant knows when to turn the LED off on based on how much light it got during the day. To scientific instruments that reduce the cost of innovation, allows people in Africa and Asia and South America to catch up with scientific development. So I think we're highly motivated by these kind of projects. The real change happens when economic relationships change. And so then the idea was, let's set up new economic organizations based on these new principles. By respecting some fundamental principles that were behind what was already existing. So let's build the enterprise of the future. And that was the seed value for this Sensorica network.
First, you have to release all the air you have, okay? So you can jump into the water, and then you can try to catch the stars by exhaling, okay? Breathing is a project we started for children with cystic fibrosis.
Blow, or you're gonna hit the banana. Oh, you hit him.
It's really about making therapy fun. The therapy is quite a challenge for chronic illnesses, and about 1 person over 2 doesn't do the therapy well. It's an exercise I have to do daily, so it's quite tedious and boring. Yeah. So the games make the therapy fun, but it also gives a feedback to them about your breathing too low or too high, or We just connect this medical device to the computer so that we can use the data for the game and for the research too. For hospitals, it's costing at least $1,500. So it's not something you can have at home easily. If we include all the parts that we plan to add, such as the memory card and the battery and so, it would be about $200. In a later phase, we want to do a microchip, and it would reduce the cost to maybe $60, $80.
The cost of innovation using open source is very low. These products can be 10% of the market price. So you're sinking the cost of innovation, and you're taking away some cost of production or assembly. Here's the file, print it at your local 3D printing shop, and then put it together IKEA style. It really reduces the cost of a product.
With like open licenses, someone could take this and improve it and reshare it.
But once it's completed, the how-to is going to be put out to the world, and anyone that has the capacity to replicate the device can do it, no cost.
Yeah.
But there's also going to be potentially a commercial aspect to it. How's that going to work?
Yeah.
The question is open source hardware a viable, business model? You have something at home to bake something, to bake bread?
Oh, yes, I do.
Everybody has, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you make your own bread? You find tons of recipes on the internet. Why don't you make it? And then you make money on convenience. You say, I can source the parts for you, put them in a bag, and send them to you. Open source hardware businesses also survive on services, okay? People are asking, yeah, but if you can't patent, how can you protect? People are going to copy you.
You might gather your team to protect your idea and develop it, okay, but then you patent it and you protect it. What if tomorrow somebody thinks of something that you guys didn't think of and improves it, and all of a sudden releases their new technology that is better than yours, so yours is obsolete, so your patent is useless.
This is a journey. We're on a journey to figure this out. I'm pretty confident that the regenerative frame is the right frame, and a regenerative frame means that a system is self-organizing, self-refueling, self-learning, and so we see it in lots of projects in the world. It is emergent.
Did we mention not to vibrate here, or were we vibrating?
No
Should
vibrato?
we not vibrato then?
No vibrato, okay. Yeah, okay, let's try that.
You want to try that?
Yeah, let's try that from the top.
A good listener is somebody who can understand meaning beyond what people actually say. Very few of us actually can find right away, particularly, the words that we want to use to explain what we mean. And a good listening skill is the ability to sense what's behind what people obviously say.
If you're playing a faster tempo, then we can't fit together. It's not.
And I think you'll sit in between us, so it's real hard for him too.
Yeah. Well, let's try it again. See if we can kind of feel this a little bit more together as a group.
If you were describing Loomio to your brother, I think you would say something like, Loomio is a simple technology that enables people to come together, to talk an issue through, generate ideas, and come to a clear shared understanding together, and a decision about what action to take together. The idea came out of our experience during the Occupy movement, of the potential for collaborative decision-making when the process is well held. It can be totally amazing, like transformative for people. When diverse perspectives can genuinely feed into a collaborative process, groups can end up making more intelligent decisions than any individual would by themselves.
At the Red Victorian, we invite many people to be part of the decision-making process, and the way that we do that is we provide them a link to Loomio. I'd love to get people to chime in the next day or two, in the next 24 hours on the Loomio thread, and then at least I'll have some kind of direction to start a conversation with them. Some things are decided fully on Loomio, some things involve the offline component as well. For larger issues, we tend to then take that Loomio conversation, meet in person, and kind of go over some of the nuances as a group.
And so it's like, do we want to take that battle on as our own, or?
So when a discussion gets to the point where someone in the group thinks, hey, we can make a decision here. I've got an idea, this is what I think the group should do, they can put up a proposal. And so you've got discussion on the left of the screen and decision-making on the right, and a proposal always has a time limit on it. So it always comes to a clear conclusion. So you've got this sort of divergence in the discussion, and then you converge on a shared outcome, an agreed outcome. People participate in a decision by clicking one of 4 buttons. So you can either agree, or you can sort of opt out or abstain, or you can disagree, which is like saying, I don't know that it's the best idea, but I'm not going to stand in the way of the group. Or you can block or raise a red flag, which is saying, like, I think this is a really bad idea. I've got a serious concern that I would like to be addressed before we move forward with this.
I think that Loomio is really interesting for the fact that it creates space for people to kind of take the time to deal with their emotions and then process them, often in more constructive ways, by writing down what they're thinking.
There's all kinds of awful stuff that happens online, bullying, but Loomio's sort of designed with that, I guess with this idea in mind that if we design online environments in a way that makes certain types of behavior easier, so really fosters a sense of respectful, constructive dialogue. I mean, it's really about people coming together to achieve a shared purpose in a way that works for all of the people involved. And it's kind of that simple. Like, little kids get this stuff. We have 12-year-old kids using Loomio effectively in their schools with parents and teachers making decisions together.
I think that Loomio really catalyzes those kinds of conversations because you pick up on those nuances and you start to see them. And it's not just actually the technology, it's the types of collaborative structures that technology enables.
This idea that we expect democracy from our government and we're totally fine with tyranny or dictatorship in our workplaces for some reason, even though that's where we spend 8 hours a day for most of our lives. So I have a lot of hope that that's changing. It feels like there's a real movement building around changing that. It's just people coming together to achieve something around the creation of value. And the cooperative structure is, we've found it to be totally flexible enough to have real room to move, to be adaptive, to set things up in a resilient way that does involve specialization and most effectively serves the social mission.
Sensorica, we found a system, which is the value accounting system, where we can log our time And as soon as we have finances, we can use the log we created to redistribute the money.
Pizza number one. Ladies and gentlemen.
Sensorica is a network where people come collaborate on different projects. And the idea is that the system that we have put in place captures all these contributions from different individuals in the context of that particular project. And then we decide how to share the benefits.
According to the value equation.
According to a value equation,
that
which is a social contract that we make and we agree on before the project starts. So there's 5% that goes actually to sustain the infrastructure, to sustain the lab, okay? So let's take this little part here, and nobody eats this one, right? And now here's a guy that contributed, let's say, a quarter. Our system allows anybody in the world to contribute as much or as little as they want. So somebody's gonna get just a little piece, and that's fine. Because this guy is probably doing something else, he's working on other projects, and that's his little contribution. Here, I'm gonna take this piece. I'm gonna be modest.
So conservative, so modest. I think the big one.
How I got to the participatory economy is by having been shocked, with my previous job. In 2006, I left Montreal to the Silicon Valley, San Francisco. And this is where I got my first job as an engineer in a company manufacturing lasers. I was very stimulated. I put a lot of heart into the work. And then 2008, financial crisis comes, and then you see how people are treated once they're not an asset anymore. So I just got laid off and kicked out, essentially. That led me to use the internet to find solutions, and I realized how much power the internet can give to an individual and to groups. So that frustration turned into something constructive. I got the pictures.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's more. Well, you're there. Are you there?
No, when I first came to Canada, I just knew a bit of English, not much, and I didn't speak French. Canada was pretty open to immigration from Romania back then. I think the second community that adopted us was the Italian community. We spoke Italian, and they were more established than Romanians who were just arriving.
So you started here, what, busboy first? Or you started later?
For sure. I didn't speak French or English, just started working. And then slowly, I started to pick up orders. Tony was here every week.
Those were the days, my friend. Beautiful days. Now all of a sudden you got smart. Whatever you do, I hope it makes a change.
What do you think about change?
If it comes from you, it's probably a good thing.
What a beautiful day, huh? Adu sa Plaza Luța. My father's place from Romania. It's the capital of watermelon. So this is something that we eat every day.
Do you need help?
Yes, go ahead. And it drives my mother crazy the way we eat it. Because I knew the truth since I was young because my father was very open about it. My father was in prison in Romania when he was young. He always stood up against the regime, so I grew up in an environment where, idealism comes first. They're very, very supportive parents. Always speaking about what people have done for society. So it runs deep. How do you say father in...
Patera.
Huh? Patera. They just dropped everything to flee the country, and that was to give us a better future.
People actually come to this kind of notion of what I call building the next society, building the next system. They come to it from different reasons. Some come out of a lot of pain and poverty and excruciating difficulties. We either try something new or we're in real trouble. Another part of it, I think, is it's cultural, but it's also people who really crave getting away from individualism. Somehow, but the hunger for what community can bring.
Sometimes we can just play through the music. The first time's not so good, but then even without words, it evolves into something. I mean, we're just all giving and taking at the same time.
the mothers in Thorncliffe Park, we wanted to make this place a better place for everyone. I'm originally from India, and one of my husband's friend, he gave a tour of Thorncliffe Park, and the first day itself, we felt home here. The next day when we got up and we wanted to walk in the neighborhood, we walked into the park, and we were really not happy with the condition of the park and all. But when we are here, we have to fix things. We came to know about a lot of women who live in these apartment buildings, mostly the immigrant. They are doing businesses from home. They bring stuff from their home countries and then sell it to their neighbors, friends at a very good price and make a supplement income for themselves.
This is for your great-grandchildren. Yeah.
When we come together, we talk about, oh, this is our like backyard. Because always we, in back home, when we are living, house always have backyard or front yard. There in the building, you don't have any backyard, any private. So we call this, there is a backyard. So in backyard, we have to have some activity too.
So we thought that this is a really good idea to create a market. This market will serve as a platform for the vendors and these newcomer women, where they will feel confidence and and it will also empower them, build their self-esteem and build the clientele as well.
This is the magic storage. What you think it will be inside? You will afraid. Go further.
The park completely transformed. People gathered, they started looking from their apartment buildings, and we could see the change in the park.
I'm making roti. Roti in Persian we say this is naan, and the dough for roti is different because we add yeast for this one.
Parks serve as a common space for them where they meet immigrants and new Canadians, spend some good time having tea, coffee. That was the main goal.
We are waiting until Friday come. When Friday come, we come out, just we enjoy. There is something. Just because of market, we come out.
As the new immigrants, a lot of women go through stress and isolation on a regular basis. And we thought like this market would serve as a stressor relieving agent or something like that, where people feel really good when they come outdoors.
I mean, it's good to empowerment women. They support their house, their children, yeah. So, yeah, that's the main cause, yeah, to empowerment the women, ladies. So, yeah.
Did you buy any tray for yourself? Did you buy any canopy for yourself? Next year, आप ये कुछ भी नहीं लेंगे, तो you won't be coming to the market. There are challenges and there are achievements, right? We started with zero, nothing in our hands, and but we had a strong vision. We had that commitment to give it to the community, to return back to the community. The community comes up with their own ideas and all because they feel comfortable. They feel they see us as the part of their own self, which is really challenging for us to take everyone's suggestion to work on one thing. But we do accept the suggestions and we choose how best those things fit into what we are really trying to do. I mean, looking at the bigger goal. Her husband passed away recently, and for her, these are the opportunities which provide supplement income for her to run her house, and she has kids and she has to look after them. And the moreover is when she comes to the market, she comes with the friends and they are supportive and, you know, they are always there for her. It's like a building family kind of environment in the market, and they're all friends come to the market to eat what she is making, and they love doing it.
Thank you. Enjoy.
You know, when I look at their faces, I can see in their eyes, you know, that I can sense that, the happiness. And that is, I think that's the value this market is bringing. It's emotionally, and though there is definitely a financial support for them, but still it is like more about building relationship, building trust.
She's very nice and she always supports us. And this she doing, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Maybe there is no reward when cooperation works well. Maybe you're just in the process, and the process is the reward. There's something that's innately satisfying about that.
Sorry, can we do it again? We didn't start together. I don't know why. But if we weren't able to work together, the music itself would suffer, and it would be probably, we wouldn't be able to communicate effectively as a group. The music might still sound like music, but it just wouldn't be convincing. We wouldn't have the organic quality that we are always striving for. Should we just do it one more time with Sung Young now? See, and then I'll join in the end because my part's easy.
Me, right?
Yeah, let's see how it works. Here's our motor, right? We have this engine. Then we have the car driver.
The process itself is very satisfying. You know, you go through stages and you come to a different result, but all the stages, you know, it's enjoyable. Yeah.
I would just say it's a lot more fun. There's certain times when you have to play like a soloist, when the virtuosic passage in every one of our parts. And there's no leader, but then we're all leaders too. So it's just a great experience.
I don't know if I was a bad guy or not, but I definitely wasn't a good guy, you know? You know, you gotta leave that shit behind you if you wanna grow, right? And so that's what I've been trying to do.
The farms in themselves, by nature of what we're doing here, are kind of like the great equalizer, you know? Like if you're out there picking radishes or filling boxes or planting trees, or it doesn't matter what your history is, how much suffering you've been through, it really levels you off.
Yeah, it was a good opportunity to get into the giving back department a bit, right? You know? Working for your community a bit, right? Instead of taking from it all the time.
It wasn't a big idea that we were going to go out and, you know, rescue people, you know? Our idea was set the table here and do it with soil and seeds and growing food and allow that process to do what it does for all of us, you know. You know, people ask me why I farm. It's as much for my mental health as it is for anybody else who's working here. I'm in no different. We're different in some ways, but we're all alike in other ways. We all have our stuff.
It's spiritual for me too, right? Like you put something a seed in the ground, you nurture it, you care for it, and it gives you something back. Yeah, it is something actually that changes you.
We've survived a lot of crazy stuff, but I think it's important enough to the people who we work with that it has to continue. And it's important enough that it has to include more people who haven't been able to take part. And our goal is not, unlike most social service agencies, is not to graduate people and send them down the road. No, we feel like we want them to be, for as long as they want, to be able to come here.
Yeah, you guys are my family.
First time I met this guy, I was like, who is this guy, you know?
Yeah.
And you had kind of a hard edge.
Well, I wasn't very, like, socially integrated either, right? Like
Well, you were new.
Yeah, I was.
This guy's got the softest core.
You hear that, guys?
He's got a really
that better
good,
be on tape,
he
man.
has a good heart. He's got a good heart.
I might need that one day as character.
And that's right. No, I mean, it blows my mind.
Yeah,
Somebody
but you know what?
that's gone through the kind of shit that you've gone through, and that
I
you can
appreciate
stand
that,
up.
Michael. I do.
You guys don't have the monopoly on suffering, by the way.
Oh,
you
yes,
know?
I know this.
And so I'm just saying, for me, you know, I needed to do this for myself as much as for anybody else. And that's the honest truth. It's hard to admit, but it's true. I mean, I got my own stuff I got to deal with.
Actually, music is sort of like a reflection of life. This medium allows to have a conversation with the different people at different times, and if it works well, it's really good.
It's very clear to me that to have a healthy system, finance is a piece of a bigger whole and needs to be in service of that whole. The basic premise of investment is to invest money in order to create more money at the end. We call that return on capital, but it's money in, creating more money out. So we've grown a pile of money while we've destroyed the atmosphere. That's not sustainable. There's a whole sense of that we've got to go beyond just profit-making, which takes no regard for what happens to the environment. And another piece of it is human and communitarian, trying to build a different sense of community. But those themes, I think, democracy, wealth, changing wealth ownership, environment, community, participation, those are the themes that we're seeing develop in many parts of the country and in many parts of the world.
I think of the first time the beer was served at the Root Cellar. I mean, that feeling is tremendous. And you realize that, hey, people are enjoying this. It's not just us. There's a great mix of younger folks, older folks, women, men, those who are coming in who might not feel that the beer culture is currently really speaking to them, that might feel alienated. I think our approach helps to kind of even that playing field where it's like, yeah, this is it's a good beverage.
I love craft beer, I just do. And really in London, there's not a lot of options right now. And as soon as I found it, I'm just happy that I have a beer that I enjoy. And the whole co-op idea is so cool. I've actually never experienced that in a beer-wise.
The big brewers out there who are, their sales in volume. And that's their market. The more they can sell, the better.
There's a lot of beers, you drink one and it tastes the same as the other. And these ones, like when you look down, even the colors are different, the flavors are different. That's worth supporting, yeah.
When they name some of their beers, you recognize the name of, it was the Springett Stout. These are farms that I grew up around the corner from. They're bringing in local ingredients and making a fantastic beer with it. There's some morality to their business, and these guys aren't going to make it rich. That's not the point of their business. They're providing good beer for the community, making jobs in the community. It's a fantastic way to kind of go about it.
We've known for decades that if you circulate money and materials in a local economy, you get these multiplier effects. And so by circulating money and materials and information in a local economy, you're going to be more in alignment with the regenerative process that actually, is the way the world works.
What I really love about that kind of community engagement is our neighborhood tart. So it was a wheat base with rhubarb, and that rhubarb came from Old East Village. So we had somebody take up the cause. She went around and just chats on the street, trying to find rhubarb in people's backyards. We got a ton of it. We threw it into the brew. It was really tasty, and I think for us, it again it's a lot of fun. I mean, beer can be a lot of fun. Right now, we brew an incredibly inefficient beer. It is not a turnkey process. It is not pressing a few buttons and things work. It is a labor of love, but it is a lot of labor right now. And so we're hoping to streamline some of those processes via an expansion so that we can focus on the kind of value that we feel our beer is bringing as well.
The hops for the next one are sitting over there with the Irish moss in the latest edition.
Brewing it's an economy of scale thing. It takes largely the same amount of labor to produce 1 barrel of beer as it does to produce 10 times that amount.
The London Brewing Co-op, at its current size, it fiscally doesn't work. So we need to scale up. And in order to scale up, we need more space, we need, well, resources, time, energy to do that. We're going to need some investors, willing investors, to believe in the co-op model, believe in our product, and believe in the local food movement.
I don't know that Josie's ever been down here.
Okay.
So I think a lot
is demonstrating what works.
What's here?
We know what the expansion looks like, 225 to 250. That's not including a purchase, but.
Have I got an investment opportunity for you, and in the first year, you'll double your money.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having us in your business.
Yeah, we're up for it. Love to chat about what we've done here and maybe where we could go into the future. Financing, in part, may come from Londoners who support our vision and our dream. And we want it to be angel or patient investment where they believe in the purpose of what we're doing, not just the fiscal return that they will receive.
I think certainly those short-term goals that, the expansion of the brewery system, that would be in a lease situation.
So it's specific investors that we're looking for who understand our vision and believe in it.
And that will include doing the renovations in the next building, moving the brewery there, and having it up and going. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get that to you, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any questions, anything putting into it, just let me know.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Fantastic, yeah.
It drives me nuts when I start talking this way and people, oh, you're a socialist or you're a communist. This has nothing to do with it. This has nothing to do with socialism versus capitalism. This is how real systems in the real world work. And that's physics and biology and energy. Everything is energy. This is the way it works, from a tornado to boiling water in a pot to insects to entire ecosystems to human bodies to human consciousness to the entire universe itself is a learning, living system.
We are in Whistler, BC at the Impact Economy Summit. We've been trying to cook a new economic model for the citizen media ecosystem. There's a lot of energy in the room with ups and downs, which is normal for this kind of interactions, discussions, and working together. So this is building bridges, right? Building bridges between the open world and the classical world so that we can establish these flows of resources in this process of metamorphosis, right? We can't just start building from scratch, from nothing. We are within the system, and by establishing these interfaces and the trust, okay, we can allow these resources to flow.
This is not in any way a classical business, right? This is not around the corporation that wants to maximize profit for its shareholders.
I see traditional corporations as boxes, okay? So there are spaces of confinement that limits you in what you want to do. Let's say you have a project and you go to a corporation, and the question is, do we have the budget? Or the budget, that number is a parameter that confines you. Do we have the skills? So essentially you're looking in a box and you see what's in there, how much money we have, how much people we have. So NASA is doing a lot of prizes, and this is competitive crowdsourcing. You have a prize, you have a project, and you say, all right, who comes up with the best design, they get the prize. And there's a lot of redundancy, and everyone spends money for their own prototyping and for delivering something, and then you have one winner and the rest are losers, and the only thing they take home is the experience, right? So with the value accounting system, we say, well, why don't you collaborate and log your contributions, financial materials, time, everything you put in there, and then the prize, you share it according to everyone's contribution. Okay, so you turn competitive crowdsourcing into collaborative crowdsourcing.
What you're building is a set of businesses that feed the community, because this is a real paradigm shift, what you're doing. This is not capitalism as we know it. This is something entirely different.
Yes.
Then it's clear that this is really, the way to go for me. This is the kind of answer to a big problem that we have today, which is, you don't get paid for the things you like to do. You only get paid for the things you don't like to do. So I think the system that is actually able, to create livelihoods without destroying the planet and without creating social strife is the one that eventually, hopefully, has to win out, because otherwise we're all doomed anyway.
If everyone wants to take their seats, that would be lovely.
I will go home with a positive message that what we're doing is important, that is perceived as important, which is a validation of what we do. So that's why I leave for these kind of moments. This is the currency I'm looking for. I met some people that said, you, TB, you can't fail because you've been there and you've paved the way. And if Sensorica fails, then it sends this message. I say, holy shit, so now I'm kind of trapped with all this responsibility to show that, yes, it can be done. Everything is converging towards a more collaborative economy for sure. And when you free people economically, they're free. I like that noise. The tape. It's like you're moving, man. The actual lab space that we have now is pretty packed. There's a lot of people, so very crowded. It's a kind of tough on us to have to move, but it's something that we have to do. We're pretty tired. We're pretty drained. There's a new chapter for Sensorica. We are really coming out. We're getting exposed downtown Montreal. I see myself as part of the Montreal new economy setup. We're taking over, guys. The belly of the beast. Visibility, presence, legitimacy, right in people's face. When it's time for you to go, you look back and you're not going to count your money or your material possessions. I think the things that will give you more satisfaction is, do I leave a trace? Well, the greatest hope for the collaborative economy is to have this smooth transition without too many bumps, because we can feel that we're frustrating the losers, and they're powerful.
There's no land. I'm hoping that we're going to get some acreage in the middle of a park that has to be developed here. We need a permanent location. We need multiple locations, but we need one permanent location to replace Pacific when the viaducts come down. We need more people who can really carry the workload. And I think eventually we could, if people felt that incentive, that they had something at stake beyond their hourly wage, develop something that did return something to our staff, but we're not there yet. I want them to come to work because they're working for themselves. They're working for their own healing and for a community of farmers and eaters that surround it. I want them to feel that sense of ownership. I think that's probably better than stock options or shared ownership or anything. I mean, we've had this idea of a cooperative, turning this into a workers-owned cooperative. But the truth is, what would they be owning? There's nothing to own, So what we can offer is this shared experience of what happens in the process of doing this work.
Okay. Oh, awesome. I want to retire here. I'm 56. I'll be 57 in November. This is it for me. I think this is my last stop. If we last that long, this is my last stop. I'm hoping we do. All we need is boxes. We can fill the boxes. We will put out whatever we need the boxes. We need infrastructure. If we get the infrastructure, we will fill them up, and the produce, we're good. We really are good. Yeah.
Here's what the garden kind of taught me. Like, you're not gonna help yourself. It's pretty hard for other people to help you, right? They can't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not willing to do it, why should they invest all the time in fucking spinning their wheels? And if I didn't have this job, like, where would I be in the last 3 years? Like, think about it, right? Like, dead, in an alley shooting up, or in a penitentiary. Those are my three options. So, yeah, soul food saved my life, right? What else can I say? It did.
Go over the carrot or over the leaves? I go over the carrots on the first one and over the leaves on the rest.
For me, at this stage of my life, this is value to me. Spending time here with my friends, feeling good about myself, right? Maybe I'll close my eyes that night, saying, you know, I didn't hurt anybody today, right? I did maybe a couple good things. That's value to me.
So what is real wealth? Well, let me tell you what it's not. It's not money. But, you know, there are people going around saying we need a new theory of value. So we don't really know what that is. I can rattle off a few ideas. So obviously, fresh air to breathe, clean water to drink, access to clean food, family, friendships, community, art, beauty is obviously what we know is real wealth.
I think that's a big thing too with the cooperative, is that the cooperative shifts with the needs of its workers, not just with the needs of the end product. I think the five of us, I would imagine soon won't be the five of us from a worker-owner perspective. I think really we want to see that full realization of the cooperative so that we can bring in new workers who have the same values that we do, so that when people come into work, it's because they want to be there. It's because they know they're part of, kind of a larger movement, and it's not to the detriment of who they are.
Of course, the timing is hilarious. Because I don't know, is it legal to have babies brew beer for us? I don't think so.
No, but babies with like craft beer marketing is really cute. So.
We'll never make really good progress until we realize that it's not a chore to get there. You don't have to have a really unenjoyable life in service to this cause. It's got to be fun, right? I mean, like, fundamentally, it actually needs to be enjoyable. Just taking that approach to thinking about how we do activism, how we do social change, how we organize our work, I think it's one of the most powerful levers of social change.
I don't think we're going to wake up one day and say we're now in a regenerative economy. How did we know we were in the Enlightenment? This is a lifetime's transition. And the challenge is, are we going to screw this up before we make the transition? The symptoms that we feel will lighten. It will feel different. It will feel healthy. And then we'll say, wow, it feels better. It's a very moving period of history. Potentially, big things can happen. I think we're at a moment, maybe, always a maybe, that we are laying the groundwork for potentially not only transformation, but irreversible transformation. That's a big deal in history. Very interesting time.